Hello students and namaste everyone. I am Dhaval sir and our today's topic is your supplementary reader, that is It So Happened, chapter number 4, The Treasure Within. So basically students, this chapter is in a form of an interview, okay, which was conducted by Miss Bella Raja, editor of Spurs, a newsletter from the resource center, the Valley School, Bangalore, and Mr. Hafiz, contractor. Okay, and he was one of India's leading architects. Okay, so we'll read out the first line of our chapter. Every child is a potential achiever and is different from other children in his or her style of learning and area of interest. Now, these lines are very important. Okay, so through this line, the writer or the author of this chapter is trying to say that each and every child has a lot of potential in them, right? No one is dumb or dull, right? Each and every child has a lot of potential in there, but they are just different from each other, right? If a child or a student is not good at academics, it doesn't mean that he will never become a successful person in his life. And if a child or a student is a scholar, if he is a topper of the class, then also it simply doesn't mean that he will become the most successful person. Okay, so learning is different among different children. Okay, and it depends upon the area of interest. Okay, so some students they like playing, there is a sports. Some students they like learning, right? Academically they are very powerful, they are very strong. Okay, and some students they are average, they are not very good at learning, but then too they succeed in their life, right? So this is very important to understand before we start with our explanation of this chapter. So first part, it is given that Hafiz, contractor, was an unhappy schoolboy because he did not like studies. Okay, he loved doing things but detested mechanical learning. Mathematics gave him the shivers. Okay, so what is given? He loved doing things but detested mechanical learnings. So he disliked mechanical learnings. Okay, and mathematics was the subject which always gave him a kind of fear. What his principal once said to him influenced him deeply. That means, once in the chapter, it is given that his principal told him few words which changed his whole life, right? And he was deeply influenced by the 5 minute speech which was given to him by his principal. Okay, so what is the chapter all about, right? And as in the introduction itself we read that Hafiz, contractor, was India's leading architect, right? So in the beginning of the chapter only it is given that he was an unhappy schoolboy who did not like studies. Then how is it possible for such a boy, right, to reach to such a great height? Okay, so I'll explain you the whole chapter in brief. Okay, so listen carefully students. Okay, so Hafiz, contractor, as I said, was a very unhappy schoolboy, and in the first and the second year of his schooling, he was a good student. But later on, from the third grade or third standard onwards, he seemed to have lost all his interest in studies. Okay, so in third standard, when he came to third standard, and from there on, he lost his interest in studies. He was particularly very afraid of mathematics subject, and he always used to have nightmares, right? That is bad dreams, frightening dreams about mathematics examination. Okay, once he dreamt of appearing in the examination and not knowing anything at all about the subject, that is the maths exam. right? He entered the exam hall and he had a night dream that he did not know anything. Okay, so that was one incident. Then as a student, contractor was interested. That means Hafiz contractor, as a student, when he was in his childhood days, when he was a student, he was very much interested in playing games and playing jokes on others. Also, he was a very good sportsman, right? And he was the senior champion for many years. Okay, and he was also the captain of his own school cricket team, right? So that was his interest in sports. Then as I informed you about his principal's advice, so Hafiz contractor always used to pass his exams only by copying, right? And which was also known by his teachers and principal. So once when he approached his 11th standard or 11th class, the principal called him and said, what the principal said is very important. Look here, son, I have been seeing you since day one. You are a good student, but you never study. Okay, what the principal said, you are a good student, but you never study. I have taken care of you till today. Right, so he was a very good student and he was also very good at sports also. So always his teachers and principals supported him, right? So once a time will come when the exams will be held in the uh, will not be held in the school. You all know about the SSC exam and the HSC exam. So at that time there was a SSC exam, right? So the principal is saying that till 11th standard I have taken care of you. Now I can no longer take care of you. The principal is saying I cannot take care of you any longer, so you have to take care of yourself. Okay, these are the words of his principal. He talked to him for 5 minutes, right? His principal talked with contractor, that is Hafiz contractor, for 5 minutes. And this incident uh, had a deep impression on Hafiz contractor. Okay, and that was the day from when he started uh, studying seriously. Means he took his life seriously, right? And as his principal's advice, uh, he had the desired effect on contractor. So the principal's advice had the desired effect on Hafiz. And after his advice, Hafiz would go for prayers, and all the way he would do was eat and study. That means all the time he used to sit at one place, he used to eat, and he used to simply keep on studying. And due to that reason, in his board examinations, he scored 50 percentage marks, right? Because his principal knew very well, because that in school he used to get support, so he used to get pass. But outside school, when the board examinations will be there, it will be very difficult for Hafiz to clear his exams. So he explained this thing to Hafiz, and he took it very seriously, and he worked hard, and he cleared his exams with 50 percentage marks. Okay, so I hope so till here it is clear. We'll move further. Then Hafiz, uh, as we know that this chapter is in the form of an interview, right? So continuously there is a conversation going on between Mr. Hafiz and Miss Bella, okay, who was Bella Raja, who was interviewing contractor Hafiz. So she asked him regarding his school, that if he was punished at school or not. Okay, so at this, contractor Hafiz replied that the teachers pulled him up regularly. That means he was regularly given punishment by the teachers and scolded also. He also got a lot of scoldings from his teacher. and he would receive a caning every week. Caning means a stick on the hand or in the form of a punishment. Okay, so caning is a stick. However, he never felt anything on that account. So usually the students, they get scared or they feel embarrassed, but what Hafiz is saying, that he never felt anything on that account. It was absolutely a normal thing for him, right? As he was more interested in playing, so it didn't bother him anything what all his teachers told him, and what all punishment they gave to Hafiz, the contractor. Okay, so Hafiz, he kept on playing and he did nothing else. Okay, he was also the leader of his gang. That means he had a gang of his own friends, and he was the leader of that gang. And he would have gang fights and plan strategies. Okay, so these things interested him more than the books. Okay, and one day he did not want to study, so he created a distraction, and for one whole hour they played chore police. Okay, so he always kept on doing things like this in his class, okay, and at the school. So that was the first part what we have discussed till now. Okay, now we'll go to the second part of this chapter. Okay, this person is Hafiz, contractor Hafiz, and yes, this is the second part. What is written in the introduction, we'll just read out. He stumbled on architecture because he knew little French and less German. He was offbeat even in the pranks that he played on others. When he found his calling, there was no looking back. So I'll go through this second part and I'll explain you. Okay, what does it mean and how does the story proceed? So after the school got over, contractor Hafiz uh, actually wanted to join army, but his aunt would never allow him to join it, and he had another option, which was to join the police force. But even in that field also, his mother won't allow him to join police force either. Okay, so he did not have these two options, and he was just told to do his graduation. Okay, and it was by using some influence in Gujarati, we say odkhan. Okay, so it was by using some influence, uh, that is uh, her cousin's husband, he got admission in Jai Hind College, okay, which was for architectures, and there he had to study. Sorry, that was not the college. He just went over there for uh, his graduation, and he got the admission with, as I said, the influence of some of his uh, known person, and there he was supposed to study French, but he was very weak in French, right? He studied French for 7 years, but he did not knew even 7 words about French, and so he took his married cousin's help, and her husband was an architect, so he started going to his architect office, okay, to learn French. So this is a very nice incident. Listen carefully what I said, that for his graduation he got admission in one of the colleges, and he had to learn French, but he did not know French at all, and so therefore he took the help of his married cousin. Okay, and he went to her husband's office, which was an architect office, to learn French. Okay, then over there, one day, the architect's office, he saw somebody drawing a window detail, right? So usually the architects, they do the sketches of the buildings, houses, windows, doors, everything. So somebody was drawing a window detail, okay, and the window detail, right, as it is described in the chapter, the window detail is a very advanced drawing. That means it is a very difficult drawing, and the contractor, that is Mr. Hafiz, told him, that means the person who was drawing the window in the architect's office, Mr. Hafiz told him that his drawing was wrong. Okay. He added that the window he had drawn would not open, and still this young Hafiz was inexperienced, and he did not have any kind of uh, experience, practical experience. And the person who might be working in the architect's office, he might be already a experienced person. So he had a bet with that person in the contractors in the architect's office, and he won the bet, right? So this thing surprised his cousin's husband, and that person who was his cousin's husband, he asked him to draw a few specific things, okay, relating to architecture. And this fellow, that is Hafiz, did that thing at once. We easily drew that things at once, and the man was so much impressed that he asked the contractor, that is, he asked Hafiz to drop everything and join architecture. Okay, so that is how it was the beginning of his architecture career. That means how he uh, got to think about architecture, right? So that architect who was his cousin's husband, took him to the principal of the college of architecture college. And in that college for architecture, nobody who had got below 80 to 90% were allowed to enter. Okay, so minimum criteria was 80 to 90%, but Hafiz had only 50%, right? So uh, due to influence of his cousin's husband, the principal uh, warned him and told him that I will allow you to take part in the entrance examination, but if you do not do well, I will not allow you to join. So there was a condition for Hafiz to join the architect college, and that was to clear the entrance examination. And in that entrance examination, Hafiz got an A plus, right, which was a very good scoring. And from there on, it was a cakewalk for Hafiz. So cakewalk means it was a very easy going thing, right? That means then later on he did not face any kind of difficulty in studies, and he stood first class first throughout. After that, that means throughout his college, he always stood first class first, okay, which was a great achievement. And further, in the chapter, it is said that Hafiz, the contractor, never used to make any kind of plan. Okay, so one of his teacher, Mrs. Gupta, had told him when he was in third grade that you are useless in everything, but your sketches are good. That means your drawing is very good. And at that time, she had advised him to be a architect on growing up, right? But at that time, Hafiz was not clear because he had never planned anything for his life. And when he became one of the architect, he went back to meet her and told her about his success. Okay, so further, uh, Hafiz Said was very bad at languages, and he was also very bad at maths also. That also we have already studied. So he never applied all these things to his mind, and he was in a boarding school where every day was a new day for him, right? So we also imagine that how is it possible that a person who did not like studies, who did not like maths became an architect, right? Because all this mathematics and mathematics principles are required to study architecture also. So it is a surprise for us that how did he become India's one of the best architect, right? So uh, again we'll go back and we'll try to understand. So what he used to do when there were tests in his school, he always used to copy them, right? And uh, those who always stood first or second in his school, he said, right, as he was not good at studies. So further in the interview to Miss Bella Raja, he is saying that when I used to study, I always used to copy and pass my exams. But he is trying to say that those students who always used to be at the top, that is at the first or the second position, when he was in his school, are doing some or the other ordinary jobs at present. When he is a successful person, they are still doing some or the other ordinary jobs. And what he is trying to say that as for himself, the school life made him street smart. That means uh, whatever playings, whatever games which he used to play in the school gave him a lot of practical knowledge and a lot of vision, right? And he learned more by what he did than what the books taught him. Okay, so he did not read the books or he did not learn things from the book, but he learned things from whatever he used to do. That means playing in the fields or the open ground and everything. Okay, so at school, Hafiz was interested in other things and not books. And whenever he used to study in the school, and at that time, if it rained outside the class, he would simply sit and think of the flowing water, right? And he used to forget about the lecture, and he used to think about the flow of water within the dam, that how the water would flow into the dam, how much water uh, would be contained or would be hold, means how much capacity of dam might be there to hold the water, right? So all these things he used to think. Okay, how to stop the flow of water with the help of dam, right? So this all things he used to think during the school while sitting in the class. And he also informed that his school was such where discipline was very very important, and sometimes a student who would lose a button of his shirt while fighting, right? In that case, that student would run to the contractor, that is Hafiz, and Hafiz would cut a button uh, using a blade from a chalk. That means he would cut a chalk, and from that he would make a button, and no one could then see that his real button was missing, right? That much clean he was in his work. That means in the drawing of sketches and art. Okay, so he used to say that once the dinner time passed, right, he would get past dinner with a full neat uniform. That means when the breakfast or the food was done in the school, no one would look at the button, and that student would escape without any kind of punishment. Then again, Miss Bella Raja asks her that how do you give designs to your customers, right? So how do you judge your clients and how do you give them the uh, designs? So at this, uh, Hafiz says that today when a client comes to me, he says that I look at them or I look at him very closely and observe his face, clothes, and manners, and all these things gives him an idea of his taste. Okay, so simply gets the idea of his taste, and he is able to relate to the people in a way that would be comfortable, right? Then when asked for, he would make a sketch spontaneously. That means immediately he would understand the requirement of the client, and on the spot, there is spontaneously he will draw the sketch, and he would give it to his people in the office. Okay, and that is how he used to satisfy his clients. So Hafiz says that his sketches are his mathematics, and he puts designs, construction, then psychology and sociology together. That means he was asked that how is it possible that you understand so well, and how is that possible that you have become so much successful. So what he is saying, that his sketches are his mathematics, right? He draws so well that it is very clear, the designs and everything, and to draw the designs, uh, he looks after the construction, psychology and the sociology of the person who is opposite to him, and make a sketch from all that, and that is what makes him a successful person. So this is how he gives his interview to Miss Bella Raja, and that is what brings an end to our chapter. Okay, that's all what is covered in this chapter. So I have already explained you each and everything, right? And yes, so we'll do one thing. We'll, as our chapter is all, I'll end my lecture over here, and I thank you everyone for watching my video.